power. The ability or capacity to do something or act in a particular way. Corruption. The action or effect of making someone or something morally depraved. Power tends to corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, what does Lord Acton's well-known phrase about how people in positions of power tend to go bad, what has it got to do with the video games industry and the video games we play or don't play? But let me give you a few examples to mull over. Star Wars Battlefront 2, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, Battlefield Hard-line, the Battlefield 5 beta release and delay, Resident Evil 6, Destiny 2, and the Call of Duty World War 2 and Black Ops 3 post-release content. In my opinion, if a game, or more usually a game franchise, becomes super popular, the publishers and developers behind the game often lose track of why the game was popular in the first place. And then they just change things for the worse. And this, I think, is because they believe that it's their innate skills and decision-making skills that have made the game popular, and they then believe that they can make decisions to change the game for the better, not based on exactly why it was popular, but just because they believe that they are right. That popularity of that game makes that publisher and developer really powerful. You know, they have created a money-making beast. But this leads, as Lord Upton said, to a certain type of corruption and bad game ideas, and ultimately bad games, because they don't keep the reason and reasons the game is popular at the heart of the gameplay. The corruption of a game's core values and the decision-making process also leads to pay-to-win scenarios, or the introduction of things like loot boxes or paid for multipliers. You know, think of the progression system in the disastrous launch of Battlefront 2, or the loot boxes further back in Black Ops 3, or to my eyes actually the loot boxes in Overwatch. But let's talk about some examples. So let's talk about, I don't know, COD Advanced Warfare. Now don't get me wrong, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare is a good game, but what Activision did was they took the really successful Call of Duty franchise, and although yes, Ghost wasn't that popular, with Advanced Warfare they thought, right, let's make this better by introducing boost jumping and boost sliding, moving away from the boots on the ground gameplay that players loved. If we move on to Black Ops 3, which although was probably one of my favourite Black Ops games, the post-release content was rough. And what I'm talking about here is specifically the picnic map in one of the DLCs that was released later. And then we had Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, for me like this culmination of bad decisions from Activision and the developers, where they brought out this space-based game with amazing jumping around and boost jumping that just wasn't Call of Duty. It also didn't help that it didn't look good, I don't think, it didn't sound good either. But they had taken Call of Duty, this boots on the ground, World War II, and perhaps, you know, a Modern Warfare based scenario into space with jumping around and robots, and it just wasn't fun anymore, and hence the franchise really suffered. We had Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, where I guess you could say Bungie, coming off the success of Halo, produced Destiny 1, which I thought was a good game in its vanilla format, but you know, there wasn't much there. But they thought they could produce this amazing game, ultimately they couldn't. And then with the slow development of the game and the release of the DLCs, kind of, I guess you could say, ending with a Taken King, Destiny 1 became the game it should have been. You know, they were forced to learn from their mistakes. But then with the Destiny 2 original release, it was like they hadn't really learned from those mistakes, and they had to go back to the drawing board to finally get the game right with Forsaken, again because the developers and the publishers thought they knew best, instead of just following the simple gameplay mechanics that made the game so popular in the first place. Star Wars Battlefront 1 and Star Wars Battlefront 2, the DICE ones. Star Wars Battlefront 1, a nice solid multiplayer game, not much in it, there was no campaign for example, but then we had Battlefront 2, which was meant to be so much better and promised so much. Instead of sticking to the core Battlefield values of, say, conquest, domination, even team deathmatch, front lines and things like that, we had DICE and EA producing these super complicated, asymmetrical big battles that just weren't that fun to play. And also, you know, they created probably the most hated progression system ever in a video game at launch, which they then had to pull out. It was pay to win in extremis, even for people who paid an awful lot of money. So the power that DICE and EA had kind of taken upon themselves with the success of the Battlefield games and Star Wars Battlefront 1, they thought, right, well, we can really change Battlefront 2 to be the game we want it to be this money-making cash cow, and ultimately they spoiled the game for that case. Resident Evil 6 is well known as probably being the worst in the franchise. Battlefield Hard-line. This was probably a case of EA going, well, we've made a lot of money out of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. Let's produce a Cops and Rodders Battlefield. What could be further from the experience of what the players really wanted? Battlefield 5. This is going to be the big test. And as of the time of recording this video, all we've had is the beta. And we've had the introduction from DICE, the idea of attrition and scarcity, where the developers themselves now have thought, well, we've had so much success with Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 3. We know the best. We know how we can make Battlefield better. We're going to make it better by reducing the amount of ammunition you have and making it more difficult to shoot other players. And it's like, what? There was this massive outcry after the beta where people said, well, the whole point of a Battlefield game is to run round and shoot at other people. If I can only spawn in with 2 clips of ammunition, you're taking the fun away of the game. And all we can really hope is the kind of virtual slap on the wrist that DICE and EA have been given with the feedback after the beta, that they will then come back and go, oh right, yeah, we did make a mistake. You know, Battlefield at its heart is a shooter. We need to do these things. And all of this has shown how publishers and developers, they become overconfident in their own ability to make the right decisions about gameplay. They've been corrupted by the power of the amazing sales that the previous games have had, and then they can't see or are unwilling to admit that their changes can ruin the games that we all know and love. A really interesting point, actually, going back to Battlefield 5, is about Battle Royale. PUBG and Fortnite, the 2 biggest games of 2018 by far, a Battle Royale. Battlefield 5 is going to be releasing in a couple of weeks' time without its Battle Royale mode. EA and DICE are so confident that Battlefield 5 using Conquest and Rush and the basic Battlefield game modes is going to be so successful that they didn't even bother to make the Battle Royale version of Battlefield 5 themselves. They've sent it to another games developer. And this has gone behind, and it isn't going to be ready for release. It's not going to be ready until 2019. They're that overconfident in their abilities. And I think that's very, very scary for Battlefield 5 indeed. I think lots of people have cancelled their pre-orders, and lots of people won't buy it because they're all going to be playing Fortnite, they're all going to be playing PUBG, and they're all going to be playing this game here. Black Ops 4 Blackout. With Black Ops 4, Activision and Treyarch, they've had to go back sort of to basics. We've now got boots on the ground combat. Sure, you can still slide around, but they've had to eat humble pie. They've had to go back and really look at the multiplayer, and thank God it's Treyarch who have done this, and they have created, in my opinion, a really good multiplayer. In fact, I would say that the multiplayer in Black Ops 4 is probably better than Blackout. Team Deathmatch in Black Ops 4 is a better respawn multiplayer than Blackout is a Battle Royale. But saying that, Blackout is a very good Battle Royale in its own right. And you can imagine the conversations they had to say, you know, when they saw the success of PUBG, when they saw the success of Fortnite, and they had to go back and think, well, Call of Duty with Team Deathmatch and Domination and Free-for-All has been dominant for so long, but they had to go back and say, no, we need to change. We need to make a battle royale because it's what the players want, and they want boots on the ground, Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare style shooting and gunplay, and this is what we got. And this is why Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is very exciting. This is why it has got the Call of Duty franchise back on track. It's got the fans back on side, it's got the critics back on side, and it's a great example of where we've gone through a loop of massive Call of Duty success through Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, the power corrupting the decision making process. So then we had the unliked games of Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, and then bringing it all back with Call of Duty World War 2, and then really bringing it back with Call of Duty Black Ops 4. So there we go. Power and corruption in the video games industry. That power that these massive game sales give to the developers and the publishers means that unless they're very, very honest, unless they stay true to the gameplay values that make the games really good, mean that at some point we will always get bad games in a franchise. So let's see what happens with Battlefield 5 in a few weeks. Let's see if they manage to overcome that corruption, overcome this amazing power they feel to give us what we want and give us the games that we want and the gameplay that we want. But anyway, that's from me. Put your questions, comments down below. What do you think about bad games? Why do you think games such as Call of Duty Infinite Warfare get released? What would you do differently? Why does this happen? And if you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. Thank you very much, and I will see you again soon.
Sit rep. Circle collapse imminent. Get to safety. Net call. Supply drop incoming. Be advised. Further collapse expected. Relocate to safe zone. Net call. Supply drop incoming. Circle collapse imminent. Get to safety. Further collapse expected. Travel to indicated safe zone. Circle collapse imminent. Get to safety. Be advised. Further collapse expected. Relocate to safe zone. Circle collapse imminent. Get to safety.